Welcome to Worlds Cooldown presented by State Farm. I'm FLICKR here to kick off Worlds and simmer down on the day with none other than Spawn and Mark Z. Spawn, we heard you give a little bit of that sizzle on the analyst desk. I know it's called Cooldown, but are we ready for the heat that you're going to bring?
I mean, that was such an impressive day one of play-ins. I cannot believe how some of these teams have shot up. And I think that people were going into this world assuming that the gap had grown from the top three regions to everyone else, but it definitely seems like it is anyone's game right now. And I just cannot wait for the rest of it because I feel like it's going to get spicier and spicier as the tournament goes on.
It's all fun and games now because no one's getting knocked out. But then once the bodies start dropping, then suddenly that funny barb turns into a twist of the knife, and I mean that's when all Reddit and Twitter become such fun places to be.
And we'll get to that territory before we know it, right? Because it's crazy to think that we're even 5 games deep into Worlds already. Speaking of which, that is why we are here. I mean, Cooldown's going to be the one-stop shop for all things Worlds, bringing you all the day's action and anything that you may have missed. So warning to everybody watching, we do have play and day one spoilers ahead because today the Cooldown crew are going to run through all the day's biggest pop-offs, give you a speed run of every game that happened, and then dish out some honors to all of the players and teams, those that stood out to us in particular. But taking a look at those games that we all witnessed go down, we are starting to see the standings shake on through. PSG were able to pick up 2 wins for themselves, Mad Lions splitting their results, a win and a loss. But Team Liquid and LGC also picking up victories. And my 2 analysts, Mark and Scott, I'm sure you're pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I think we're both pretty happy. I thought the Mad Lions game was going to be a close one, and it was. I think it could have gone either way. I think Team Liquid just outperformed, especially with Tactical and Impact both popping off. But I'm excited to see Mad Lions and what they can do from here.
However, I do want to talk about PSG really quickly, and I'm sure people are shocked, right? I'm the OS guy, I should be hyping up Legacy. That one was expected. We always beat Brazil. But PSG are coming in with 3 substitute players, and they were able to take down LGD, the 4th seed from the strongest region in the world. I mean, I know that people were sleeping on this region because it's a combination of the old GPL and the LMS together, but I feel like for so long, the LMS has been this region that everyone is waiting to drop off, and they just refuse to do it. They refuse to die, and now this team, the mishmash of people that have hit Worlds before, come back in and assert their dominance over Group B.
Yeah, I mean, seeing LGD at the bottom of the standings, I know it's only 1 loss that puts them there, but even that is shocking to see. And I think everyone was predicting, Unicorns of Love haven't played yet, so this group could get even more interesting because people were saying, oh, PSG is going to be weak, especially with this sub-situation that they're in, and Unicorns of Love will actually be the other team to potentially get out of this. But now it's all up in the air.
Yeah, and that's the thing, when we're already facing these upset situations on day one, who knows what is to come. Luckily, though, we do get to also hear some words from the players directly. So before we jump into what we have to say here on Cooldown, let's hear from Laura, who got to catch up with Broxa.
I love you, Broxa.
And thank you very much. Now we have a first victory on Team Liquid scoreboard here as they took down Mad Lions, and I have Broxa with me to talk about the game. Thank you very much for joining me, Broxa.
You're very welcome. Nice to be here with you again.
Yeah, I mean, nice to see you back here on the world stage. And I mean, first game, first day, first win for Team Liquid. How was this one for you? And especially since you won against your former region.
There's no doubt that this was a win that I really, really hoped for. I've played in the LEC for 3 years, and it feels a bit weird being on the other side of the coin now. I've been fighting for Europe against North America so many times now. It's a bit of an opposite story, but coming into Worlds, everyone's saying that NA sucks and EU is so much greater, and I'm happy that we managed to take down one EU team here to show that NA can at the very least participate a little bit. Obviously, I believe we can much more than that, but it's a good start. That's my point.
Sure. I mean, and that's the point we'll come back to later in the interview, but I mean, you got to shine on your signature listing on the first game. But I mean, given the setup we have here in China, it is specific because you've been used to playing online for the major part of the year. So how is it being back playing on stage here in China?
It feels a bit odd being back, playing on a stage, even standing here now in a proper setup, doing an interview. All of it is it is something that we're kind of going to have to get used to again. And in a way, I guess it could be seen as an advantage that we now have the play-ins to get used to it all before group stage kicks off.
Yeah, it is the first time you will be playing in play-ins, and actually it's the first time also for Team Liquid. And you were talking about the fact that people were not hopeful towards LCS here performing at Worlds, but I mean, you just won your first game. So I want to know, what are your expectations when it comes to Worlds and play-ins? And also, what do you think about the level at Worlds this year when you look at the first few games we had today?
Well, first of all, I'm the type of person that always likes to take everything one step at a time, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself and say that we're easily going to get out of play-in, so that we're going to do really well the entire tournament. First of all, I would just like to keep it up, focus on the next game. Now we got one win, and we just need to keep that momentum going and keep playing well in play-ins. Then once we qualify for group stage, we can start focusing on that. But in general, I think the level of play at Worlds seems pretty high. At least that's my feeling already here in play-ins, which are supposed to be some of the, on paper, a bit weaker teams, but a lot of teams seem really strong. One team that impressed me personally was PSG, coming in with, I think they had 3 substitutes and still performed really well, even beat LGD. So there are certainly some teams to look out for.
Yeah, PSG is definitely the big surprise of today. And thank you very much, Broxa, for all these insights and also for the interview. We'll see you again in a few days, hopefully.
I hope so. You're welcome.
You're welcome. And back to you on cooldown for the rest of cooldown.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Broxa. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen his face, since it's kind of in the same context when we were here in LCS.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that Broxa has had like this crazy up and down year. He came over to North America, was heralded as the person that was going to make the big difference from Team Liquid. Obviously, Team Liquid themselves has had like a rocky year, but I just love his personality and how infectious his positivity is. I feel like he's one of the most respectable players that actually comes to these events, and I feel like for some reason that shines through in his play, and I always expect him to do big things at Worlds. And he had a couple of clutch moments, key Broxa moments on that Lee Sin, and there's still some holes in his game. I think he still needs to take that next step, but I think for myself personally, as a big Broxa fan, there's enough light to show like potentially he can get back there and make a real difference in this group stage.
And those are those moments that you want to see if you are a fan of Team Liquid, the inspiration for the long run through a Worlds performance. But there are many moments today that we had to look forward to, whether it was gameplay or otherwise. And because of that, I wanted to go ahead and gather all of your standout moments of the day, the first day after all. The number one highlight in your mind that came through as what brought all of this together for you. Spawn, what was it for you?
The moment for me had to be when Babip left the Elder Dragon pit without Tay on this hugely fed Vladimir has everything up and available, and I was like, oh no, boys, you've really cooked this one. You've made a big mistake. He's going to be able to steal it, but Babip, boy from Oz, comes up clutch with the execute on Nidalee. They get themselves a 5-person Elder Dragon. They translate it into a Baron. They close out the game cleanly and pick up another win for OS against the CBLOL.
And even like the whole, both them breaking away in different directions, Nidalee jumping back into the pit, like that was all such smart play actually given the situation. I appreciate them being like, we're got to make a big play. We're going to get this Elder Dragon, even though, we might get contested by the Vladimir.
And bringing a little surprise factor, Spawn, even before the TP came down, you were already saying what was going to happen, but the team managed to pull out for the victory. Mark Z, what is your moment of the day?
I got to go with the play-in stage kind of reveal of what it was going to look like. There was this moment where I was like, what are we watching exactly? We got some earth bending going on. They're like making stuff. But then when it kind of got revealed that this was like all a big kind of almost like green screen virtual studio set, but also still actually a stage that the teams are playing on, it made me really hyped as someone who has been locked in the same room for like the last 6 months, to see them on stage playing again, as a North American fan, and probably a lot of fans around the world, just seeing it in person again made it feel so much more hype, and just the spectacle came along with it for me.
And this was one of those moments where I felt myself getting goosebumps, and I didn't really know why I was getting goosebumps. And as soon as that camera zoomed out, and the deaths are a little bit janky, there's like 3 meters between every players, but like at least we're there, baby, and at least it looks really good to have League of Legends back live in action.
I still haven't done a full run through of Avatar, but after watching that opening, I feel like I got everything matrixed into my brain that I could possibly need to know about earthbending. For me, as far as moment of the day, it comes down to the casting duo of Captain Flowers and Raz. I really enjoyed kind of getting to hear those elements that you get from their streams when they're duoing up. But I believe Reddit, Mark, you're the Reddit master here, was already popping off about their performance.
I mean, if you haven't seen the clip, I definitely say check it out. The hits him with the mace in the face, but they still get the whatever Captain Flower says. I can't replicate it, but like he's got a way with words, and it's always something fun to watch. And Raz was keeping up, and they were having back and forth the whole day. It was really cool to watch.
And the best thing about this duo is like Flowers called it out on Twitter as well. Like Raz was one of the first people that ever reached out to Flowers and offered to like give him casts. Like Raz was a little bit rough and raw back then. I feel like they've come up and grown at a similar time, and they just both have this swagger about them. Like you kind of said it, Mark. No one can replicate what they do. Like just the energy and kind of the confidence they both exude. It is impossible to not have fun when that duo is casting League of Legends.
It's the exact vibe you want for the first games that we have at Worlds. And there's so much more to come in Worlds, including some of these segments that you'll be seeing throughout Cooldown. What we got coming up is looking specifically at some of those clutch moments, whether it's a clutch smite to steal a Baron or a quick dash to avoid a stun. Every second counts. And every day, we're going to be taking a look at these split-second plays in our new segment, Every Second Counts, powered by Cisco. So, Mark, we had a very interesting one here on day one.
Yeah, this was a really insane play. You kind of catch it right at the end, or right at the beginning there. You saw Golden Tristana flying through the air. That is something that you should not really ever see. And when you talk about split seconds, there had to be some kind of weird interaction there with the code, because the way Tristana buffer jump works is it's a spell. There's a cast time applied to it, and then the effect goes after that cast time. It's 0.25 seconds, and that's why you're able to buffer that ability to get out of CC. Because if the CC hits you during that 0.25 window, the ability still goes off and you jump afterwards. Now, Stasis is unique to that because it's not really a CC. It's like applying a buff to you, and then that buff makes it so that you're just like, you can't move and nothing can happen. And so that applies to cast times as well, which is something that doesn't usually happen for CC. It will interrupt your cast time. So somehow Tristana had this insane buffer to still get hit by Stasis but go flying through the air. I've never seen it before, and I never saw it after that, despite how many more times Raze tried to do that.
And that was a big thing. You saw how like close it has to be to that, because he went for it a couple more times, Mark.
Yeah.
Like, if you go and check the VODs, like he's really given it his darndest to be able to create that buffer for us. But unfortunately for OS fans, he got turned golden a couple of times at the start of his jump.
I think people start criticizing him a lot for, like getting caught out of position, but I think he got baited by the fact that it worked the first time, thinking like, oh, I'm going to just do this every time. And then like, nope, it's not a blitzcrank hook. It's a lot more complicated of whatever you did there. You did something weird.
And I know Azale had put out that tip about Stasis earlier on before Worlds kicked off too. I feel like that's just consuming our day with these. And we've already talked through some of the moments here today. Obviously, this one that was very unique. We had the earth bending going on. But I do want to get more deep into the gameplay, taking a look at the top plays specifically that we had in day one. So I'm going to need you guys to give those to me, starting with number 4.
Starting with number 4, it's the Echo play. I thought this was such an insane escape by the substitute coming in. Like this looked like he was dead for sure, but he takes his ult out while the W's dropping, E's back in, then flashes the arrow to kind of bait the entirety of Rainbow 7 for going too deep. I thought that was just a super, super impressive play out of an Echo jungle, which you're not seeing that much of right now, and it can be a little volatile of a pick, but he played it incredible, and he kept making plays over the course of that game.
Yeah, however, I know that a lot of the analysts over there were really excited that Kongyu got his Echo pick, because whilst we're not seeing everyone play it, the Masters can still play this champion, was able to build himself such a big lead. And those skirmishes at Echo, it's just impossible to tie down. Like, he's like the original Lilia, right? Like, how do you catch that guy once he's zooming around Summoner's Rift? Like, it was really impressive to watch Kongyu, like, put on a masterclass.
And the rest of the team clearly having trust in him the way that they played as well around that win condition. As far as our next top clip, this is going to come from LGC versus INTZ.
Yeah, and this is why you do not give Babip his Nidalee, because he is so potent when he's able to get this champion. He was a part of the group of players called the Mechanics crew, kind of the next wave of OPL players. Tally on his tanks, providing that front line, providing the support and soaking up so much damage. But really, it is just Babip getting the job done on the back end of these fights and being able to clean up in clutch moments for his team.
Yeah, and this is, like we already saw the other replay about his actual Elder Dragon secure. He was a huge force for Legacy, and it's funny that you say, like you're the Osh guy, but you're always, kind of hoping Legacy lose a little bit of salt still with you, because you said you tweeted at Broxid, warning them ahead of time about the Nidalee pick. What's that about?
Well, the thing is, I don't know whether I can probably reach it. I'm actually I think I hit it under my desk. I'm actually a super big Team Liquid Broxer fan. I don't know whether people know this, but Broxer was one of the OG junglers that I always followed. I think it was a little bit, as you mentioned, obviously they knocked my team out in the final. We gave him Nidalee a couple of times and he put on a masterclass. So I was just Broxer, please do me a solid. Don't let me watch you get murdered the same way my jungler got murdered by this man.
I feel like you have a lot of great things that you can say about Broxah, and I know that we're going to talk about Team Liquid a bit more later. Our next clip comes from a different game, though. This was LGD versus PSG. It's something that was in contention for our first clip for a while.
Yeah, I mean...
And this shock... Oh, sorry. You go, Mark.
Okay, this shockwave was huge coming in. The three-man pull-in during this Baron, they were kind of split. Conquio had gone back on the Baron, and it was looking like a bit of a sketchy situation, but that pulled it all together, the fact that they were able to get so much damage down so quickly and then focus on the Baron afterwards, and that was kind of the play that really finalized that huge upset in Group B.
Yeah, and it came off the back of the Swirl Seed coming across and tagging the only two members that I thought could do any damage. They didn't split, which is such a crucial part of playing against the Lily at the moment. You really do need your damage sources to be able to split, because the splash is surprisingly big. But, they're able to weather the storm that was coming at them. And I feel like that is a resilient team. And I was kind of joking this, but the honeymoon period when a new team comes together,
yeah.
As someone that's coached lineups, it's honestly a beauty to behold, because when things go wrong, no one cares. Everyone's don't worry about it, dude. We'll get better. We're going to improve with time. Yeah, you did bad in laning phase, but I got you in the team fights. I feel like this is a dangerous team because they're obviously skilled players and they have nothing to lose because they're playing with triple substitutes. That is the scariest team to play against at the moment.
Yeah, and that's the exact kind of energy that we also saw carried on into our last clip, though. Also a team fight-oriented one. This is coming from Team Liquid. And Spawn, interestingly, you're becoming kind of our Team Liquid cheerleader for the day.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just one of those plays where everything comes together for Liquid. So much damage coming out of the Young Gun in Tactical. Impact with the perfect flank. The stopwatch timing was flawless. I mean, it is poetry in motion. And this is what I was saying about Liquid. Members of this team had a couple of clanger plays during it. It wasn't flawless League of Legends, but there was enough great play in there. And I had to be reminded by a literal world champion in Azael in the Discord that Team Liquid have a literal world champion on their lineup, right? Core JJ is just commanding the troops, and there's just something about Worlds. Impact steps up at the right times. Core JJ looks like he's in complete control, and the carries are doing enough that as a North American fan right now, you should be sleeping with a grin at night. That's all I'm saying.
A team that maybe some didn't expect to be in play-ins if you're an LCS fan, but you have to be feeling good about your confidence in them making it through. For now, on Cooldown, we are going to step away for a short commercial break, but when we return, we'll have more action for you. Welcome back to Worlds Cooldown, where we're here to give you all the details and all the drama. I'm Tigers here with Mark Z and Spawn. Spawn, you are the drama, I don't know, aficionado here. Give me some drama. What we got?
I mean, the biggest drama I've seen so far today is North American fans getting mad at North American commentators for ruining the games on Twitter. I honestly, my mind is
that going on?
blown at some people.
Hey, but sometimes people need their sleep, Spawn. It's a bit early in the AM here. And guess what? For everybody in the audience that you're worried about what you missed, this section is just for you. Because if you couldn't pull the all-nighter for Worlds, we have this specifically to get you all caught up on what you weren't able to catch in our segment called Was Sleepin', Didn't Watch. We're going to recap every single game until the timer reaches 0. Only 60 seconds to do so you get them ZZZs and them GGs. Let's dive into game number 1. We've got Mad versus INTZ.
Yeah, and this was a super back-and-forth game after what looked like it should have been a pretty clean start for the side of Mad Lions. You know, Shadow and Arome comboed pretty well together to get the first couple of kills, but then Tay actually did a great job turning this game around. He had some super long-range snipes, like just absolutely insane, and he ended up getting super fed. I think he ended the game with like 9 kills or something like that, and it became this really scrappy back-and-forth game. Mad Lions, I think Karzi and Kaiser looked really, really good, and they were some people that were definitely hyped up coming into this event. They were kind of the stabilizing force for Mad Lions that allowed them to actually win this game, but it was up in the air for a little bit. Shadow was getting caught out in his engages and stuff, and it felt like it could have gone either way for a portion of it. Even though Mad Lions did have a big gold lead, you know, fights were back and forth the entire time.
Yeah, and that was the big thing for me. Whilst there were some fights that were close, I feel like key members of the INTZ squad stopped farming completely, and they just fell into these huge CS deficits, and they started falling behind in gold, and then it just gets harder and harder to climb your way back in.
Some shining moments for INTZ, but ended up being a victory for Mad. In the second one, it was a bit more of a resounding victory on the side of PSG versus Rainbow 7.
Yeah, and this game started with a bunch of clangers, and you're going to get to see one right on your screen right now. So many times they thought they had the PSG bottom lane, but this was the day you almost caught Kaiwing, and a recurrent theme. Kaiwing is going to style on this lineup. Rainbow 7 is a team full of rookies, and they got indoctrinated into the Worlds playoff format in absolute style by this team. I think they would have been surprised at how coordinated and skillful some of these team fights were, but PSG were just on a roll from minute 1, and a lesson learned to everyone so far: do not give Kaiwing that bard.
Yeah, Kaiwing was super impressive, and it's also extra surprising considering that he's not playing with his lane mate that he's had for the last 3 years in Unified. So despite these changes coming in with an unfortunate visa situation, they look incredible. And it was the entire team stepping up as well. Like, you know, Hanabi in the top lane was also popping off, even though there was more focus with the Echo and the Bard play. But everyone looked really good.
And jokes on Twitter about what are they going to do to keep this roster through, but still more to look forward from them. As far as our next game, it is Legacy with a victory over INTZ.
And I don't know, I feel like Spawn might want to talk about this, but I'm going to steal it from him. I actually thought Legacy looked pretty good. You know, it was still a little close, but they were making, I think, a lot of the better plays, and whenever it was an INTZ play that worked out for them, it was usually off the back of something going a little wrong for Legacy. But I was pretty happy with their game. They did start getting caught out. Bard feels like a problem for a lot of teams right now, and we already kind of talked about that one buffer that might have baited Raze into thinking you could get out of more of them.
Yeah, and I think that if you're an O's fan, you would be very familiar with this playstyle. They seeded a lot of dragons early, traded it for gold objectives, but then made crucial mistakes in the mid game that meant that the Soul was able to be picked up for INTZ. However, Top Poon, kind of the savior of O's, was able to put enough map pressure on Camille. He split push with a reckless abandon throughout periods of this game. There was one crucial moment where team members got caught towards the dragon. He teleported top, took an inhibitor actually, and probably saved this game.
Yeah, I thought that was a great play actually. That's a good call out that they actually had some good macro plays.
Yeah, ultimately resulting in a victory. But our next game, it was the second victory. PSG proving that it wasn't just a 1K scenario in their first.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't, and this one was supposed to be the game where LGD asserted their dominance on the plains and really put forward the fact that this was going to be the year of China in China. However, in typical LGD at Worlds fashion, things did not go to plan. The game was slow, it was stable, but people were just getting caught left, right, and center. In this fight in particular, Kramer across the back of the Dragon Pit. Mark Z, why was he even there? What was he thinking?
I cannot tell you what anyone was thinking in this game for LGD. I mean, like, everyone hyped up the Peanut, GA, combo, mid-jungle synergy. They didn't do anything throughout the entire early game, and it was actually Uniboy who had great synergy with the enemy team. And, like, you know, despite being a sub, it was actually really, really surprising to see. And they played incredible, and I think it puts Group B into a lot of question. Like, is this a one-game mistake out of LGD, or is this actually the level that they're going to bring? Because we still haven't seen what a lot of people were pegging as one of the other teams that could potentially do well in Unicorns of Love.
Not the strongest start for LGD, but we do have one more. 60 seconds to go for TL versus Mad. Take it away, Spawn.
I mean, this was the game that everyone was waiting for. I'm sure there were NA fans that got up early or did not sleep last night because they knew that the saviors of North America were here to slap down the European hopeful, and boy oh boy would they have been happy, because I think that there has been a surprising amount of trash talk between the Europeans and the North Americans this year, and I think that going into this game, a lot of people, including myself, had Mad picked out to be the favorite team. However, a unique draft coming across from Team Liquid, some creative engagers, and if you want to learn how to play an 80 carry, ladies and gentlemen, get your notepad out and just watch Tactical's positioning, because he played nearly a flawless Twitch game.
You're saying that about
I felt like a great read on the meta. I think a lot of these things are going to be what you start seeing more of. Twitch got buffed. There's a lot of different item paths you can actually take with him. He is risky. You saw there's a number of times where Tactical either died right at the start of the fight or got killed off very quickly. He had to play them well to stay alive. Like in this example, he's waiting out the Eve, so Eve has to find a new target. Then when he goes forward, he has to worry about whenever the Syndra's going to step up. Humanoid almost one-shots him there, has to get baited by the exhaust, then the stopwatch, and it was just well played by Team Liquid. And Impact had a big standout game, better than probably his best game of the year, you could almost say, and got a solo kill on a Rome, was able to solo kill Shadow when they tried to gank him, and I think these are some things that Mad Lions really needs to clean up looking forward. Shadow was a huge force for them over the course of the year. He was a huge playmaker, and this is 2 games in a row now on Eve that has not looked very good for him, and I think the first pick, Lee Sin, might have hurt his performance a little bit.
And once again, I feel like we have to credit an unsuspecting region on their macro play, because I was watching how TL closed out that game and they played a 2-2-1. And going into that game, when I saw it, I was like, 2-2-1 with Mordekaiser and a teleport mid laner is actually kind of impossible to rip someone out. It keeps you so safe, especially when you have Rakan as a support. So TL, this team that I thought was supposed to play slow, only stack objectives, inability to be able to team fight against all these teams, actually showed me that they have a brain. Jat doing some work backstage, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Be respectful of North America's 13.
We did. Mark?
Go ahead.
Oh, you. I was just going to say that we did let you run the clock a little bit there, because it sounds like you have more thoughts on this. Just had to get more of it from you guys. So, Mark, let's dive a bit deeper into this. We have the draft available, and we mentioned some of kind of maybe the question mark pings that are happening when we saw the Twitch and Jat and what he's bringing to the table here. But what do you believe was the thought process right at the start in Champ Select?
I think for Team Liquid, this is some of their bread and butter mixed with some of the newer picks that are going to be strong on the patch. If you watch playoffs, the TF was something that was huge, and especially in that TSM series. Mordekaiser is one of Impact's best champions. He'll pick it into the Camille, even though both sides are often happy to pick that. And then the Lee Sin is Brox's most played as well. And so I think that was a smart takeaway in the first phase. Then Shadow goes back to that Evelyn did not have a great performance. And then I thought Kaiser and Karzi were actually pretty good again in this game, but because the TF pressure that starts coming down the bot lane, it took away what was their best performing member from their first game that won against INTZ. So I thought that all kind of came together to throw a big wrench in Mad Lions' game plan.
And I actually thought the Mordekaiser pick was a little bit suspect here. I was pretty critical on it in the pick ban phase. I thought that this was a pick that was designed mainly for the team fight, and I already thought Team Liquid had a winning team fight and they needed something to be able to deal with that Camille. But I mean, Impact shut me up real quickly, right? And that's what great players do. They show that they're picking a champion for a reason, and boy, oh boy, was his mastery of that champion very impressive.
I know Impact shut you up, but I'm going to let you keep talking, Spawn, because I like it. You've been fun here, and we can't leave you hanging. We got to give you a chance to talk about your team. We had Legacy taking down INTZ for their first win here in play-ins.
Yeah, and I mean, if you missed it, Tally, who is Legacy's mid laner, has been a top laner for 4 years. So giving him a tank in a winning matchup, I think that Set actually beats the Zoe out in a lot of these lanes, gets a lot of push, allowed him to team up with Babip and roam around the map. And tank mid laner or utility mid laner plus hyper carry scaling jungler is exactly how Legacy want to play. And we saw a continuation of the OPL playoffs. They're now playing towards topside. They seem to agree with teams like TSM that this is a way to be able to play the map, get your top laner ahead, unlock them on Summoner's Rift, get them running over the rest of the team. I think that this is a really crucial draft. If you're going to play against Legacy, study the ins and outs of this, because they obviously, with their pick ban, wanted to ensure topside success in all of what they did.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side for INTZ, they're in a bit of a difficult position now because this is a single round robin. And I think that's something to keep in mind here, that with these 2 losses to start out, it puts them in a really tough spot. They still have to play Team Liquid, who's looking decent. So this is starting to get a little scary. Supermassive as well didn't play today. They were, for a lot of people, probably the 3rd strongest team in the group. So INTZ needs to figure out what they want to do, because even though they did get a number of kills to get back into this game, it was almost all pickoffs using the Bard, and I think people will quickly identify that, and they'll need to find what their next, kind of shot is, what their next wrinkle in their game plan is, because it was basically pick off Tristana. That's how they got back in the game. That's going to be hard to replicate in the future, I think.
And still other teams, as you mentioned, waiting to make their mark here and play in Supermassive, one of the ones coming up. But that doesn't change the fact that we had some Supermassive plays here today. We've already talked about some of the top ones, but I want to nail down one of the assists, specifically in our assist of the day presented by State Farm. And this was a tilter if you were on the opposite side of this play. Isn't that right, Spawn?
I mean, yeah, this was one of those plays where you see it unfolding in front of you as kind of the Rainbow 7 bottom lane, and you're just like, why is this happening to me? I think this was one of the most viewed games of the nights as well, and it's like, why are millions of people currently watching me fail to kill a Bard over and over again? But, credit to Kai Wing one more time, because he played that masterfully. I think he was saved 3 times. Once by his shrines, once by a pot, and then once by a key center Q as well. So, I mean, that's just poetry in motion from the duo lane right there.
I have a question about who the assist is, because it was like self-assisting. He put all those down, then used all of them, like you said, popped his own pot. There was only the center Q that healed him, I guess. But, I mean, it was a really insane bait because things were looking a little scary in the bot lane at first.
Assisted the whole team in making sure they got the first kills of that game for what was to come. Now, before we end up closing out the day here on Cooldown, I do want to jump into some of our honors here at Worlds. Give a good award to those that deserve it, because we had some moments here today. And we're going to start off with tilt proof. Spawn, who do you think was the most tilt proof after game one?
We used to have the teleport. Now let me introduce you to the left port, if you will, if you see what I did there. This was a guaranteed first blood. Like, one more auto attack into the execution of that would have been, enough to get the job done. But credit to Tay, he bounced back. As Mark mentioned earlier, he actually ended the game with 9 kills, and he was really crucial with being able to get his team in a winning position. I mean, this play right here, the boys are bailing. They're out, and he's like, fellas, get me in there. I want to keep rolling. I've played this Urgot before, and I make it look good.
Yeah, I was super impressed, and I'm looking forward to see more of what he can bust out there, because he feels like one of the team's best performers right now.
Yeah, and that's something that they needed there in that very moment. And one of the things that PSG needed for our GG award was their subs to really step up. And it's not a typical sub situation, Spawn. In this case, it was because of the unique circumstance we have in Worlds this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's been said a couple of times, but obviously everyone's had a really rough year, and credit to kind of the rule swap that comes in here that allows them to be able to play with a hybrid lineup and then triple substitute, and they played well. I think that's the biggest thing to take away from this. Like, everyone from D, Uniboy, and Kongyu obviously was a monster, had moments today for that 2-0 for PSG. I cannot say how much I respect, these players coming together and putting on a show and representing their region well, because no one wants to come to Worlds and lose, and right now they are fighting with everything they have.
Yeah, and especially D, like AHQ had, the mid jungle kind of come over. At least, Kongyu and has played together with Uniboy. Not really the case with D. So like I was really impressed the fact that he was able to go even mostly in laning phase. It was a very impressive game for him.
And another impressive aspect goes for our Shot Call Award, and this is going to hail from the last game of the day. Team Liquid making a call here with Rift Herald Spawn.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of the Rift Heralds that I feel like is done correctly, because if you have a look at where Core JJ is on Summoner's Rift, he went bottom to ensure a map split couldn't happen. What we see so often is if you start up the Rift Herald, the mid laner will push mid, take the jungle and go dive bot, but Core JJ cuts that play off. I feel like too many people are going through the jungle to get their Rift Heralds and not through bottom lane priority. Core JJ, he's just a world-class act, right? He doesn't make that mistake. Great shot calling coming through from the Team Liquid lineup.
And it's something that I think I'm really interested to monitor as Worlds progresses. What is the meta priority? It's been hotly debated all season long. How much should you care about Rift Heralds? How should you actually go about getting them? The people who 5-man them, people are like, you're crazy. Don't bring your 80 carries up. Some teams still do that and just fight over it and use it as an objective almost to just start a fight. Some teams say sack them and just get dragons right away because that's what's going to win you the game. Get to the soul as fast as you can. Like, all this is still up in the air, and I got to agree that was a pretty good take there by Team Liquid.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I feel like Worlds teams, from the research I've done, still don't understand how they want to approach Rift Herald. And I've seen a lot of this early swap against priority, where if the net positive of a Rift Herald is like kind of 2.5, 3 plates, you're giving that up by just taking the objective. And your support, it's generally the person that suffers, because at 8 minutes, your support's like halfway through level 5. And if you send him on a roam and he doesn't get level 6, you generally lose the next skirmish around that dragon. So I do think that this is an area that I personally really want to monitor. I've been talking about it a lot, actually, and I was pretty vocal on my criticism in my lead up to this event. So I'm glad to see one team do it the way I think should happen, but I'm always interested to see whether I'm right or whether these teams at Worlds are right, because, every now and again, it's happened. It's been known to happen.
You mentioned that this is one of the things that you're looking to monitor, Spawn, and the fact that also there is a lot of play around top from some of the teams. Are there any other aspects here today that you think the audience should be keeping track of when attempting to determine what the meta is as it develops throughout the tournament?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of that perfect balance of like, take strengths from what you're seeing other teams do, but also don't lose what you're good at. We're actually having a really interesting conversation about, what the LCK used to be known for in their macro, the team fighting from the LPL, and all the minor regions have these things as well. LJL is a smart minor region, OS is a very chaotic minor region, as Telly said in his interview. So, I think stay true to yourself above everything else. That Yamato clip just always plays through my head when I say this, but like, you have to be able to take adaptations, but not butcher your own League of Legends, because that never seems to work.
Staying true to yourself on the stage while stepping up to some of the best in the entire world. That's a difficult balance to have. But today was only part of what we have in store for the tournament. Of course, we have more games to come tomorrow, even more than we had today, if you can believe it. And right there at the end, Team Liquid versus Legacy Esports. Mark, I think that there might be a little budding rivalry between our analysts, or do you think you'll both be standing on the same side?
I mean, I bet we're on the same side, but I'm always excited to see that one play out. I'm really excited to see Unicorns of Love make their debut. I think I want to see Mad Lions see how they bounce back from today after a somewhat disappointing 1-1. Can PSG keep it rolling? I mean, there's so many big games tomorrow to watch. I know for North American fans, this is the dead of the night, but it's the weekend. Just stay up all night. What do you guys got to do on a Saturday or whenever you would be waking up normally?
And I'm always going to back the boys, right? So I'll be going with the Koalas in Legacy there for the final game. I think that they did show me something today, that they are a more resilient OPL team, and that's what we've always struggled with. But I kind of agree with Mark. Like, the TCL and the LCL both play for the first time tomorrow. That's going to be super massive, as well as Unicorns of Love. And historically, if there's ever going to be two regions that will push through that kind of emerging region ceiling, it has been those two regions. I was watching the TCL finals, and I'm just a massive fan of how Supermassive play the game. I think they've actually got like incredibly intelligent read on that. I'm excited to be on cooldown again tomorrow to be able to break that down a little bit further, but they are certainly one of my teams to watch in these play-in stages.
All right, you heard it here from Spawn. That is his team to watch. I know some have said Unicorns of Love as far as the team coming out for the first time tomorrow. Mark, is there any particular team that you think we should watch, whether it was one that performed today or one that will be doing so for the first time?
I mean, Spawn took the TCL, so I'll take the LCL representatives. Unicorns of Love have put on an insane domination of their region. In terms of domestic domination this year, they are the best. They crushed so hard, losing 2 games the entire year, I believe it was, like 39 wins or something insane. So people are really, really, really hyped. Coming in with the subs that was going on with PSG, people were saying Unicorns of Love is probably getting second in that group because LGD is going to get first. Now, PSG has beaten LGD. Unicorns of Love haven't played yet, so that group is, after one day, already in total chaos from people's predictions.
Still new stuff to look forward to in Worlds here, and teams that are going to continue trying to prove themselves on the stage. But that does it for us here on Cooldown. On behalf of myself, the casters, and the entire broadcast crew from all around the world, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Until then, good morning, afternoon, evening, and good night.
Mwah.